Today we sat down with Tyler Patterson. He is a lawyer and endurance athlete who is training for the Great World Race, which is 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days, on behalf of a nonprofit here in Wichita called ICT SOS, which is created to fight human trafficking. We really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you do the same. All right, we're live. Tyler, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tyler.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. I wanted to start this. So I know you're an ultra runner, but you're about to take on one of the most ultimate endurance feats I've ever heard of. 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. Tell us about the ICT SOS, the nonprofit you're raising money and awareness for, and the Great World Race itself.
So ICT SOS, it's a really cool local nonprofit. They're fighting human trafficking, which here in Kansas, I mean, it's not a fun thing to talk about, but we're in the central part of the country and it's a real problem. So ICT SOS, they're entirely dedicated to helping victims of human trafficking, supporting them, getting out of that cycle, helping them become independent, job placements, things like that. I mean, they do a lot of wonderful work. So there were a couple other guys, Jake and Tony, who are other local Wichitans and big runners. They've got their own run club, and they were planning to do the Great World Race. I heard about it, and I'm like, oh, man.
Just from them? Had you ever heard of it before?
No,
I hadn't either.
I hadn't either until I saw you post about it.
But I'm like, this is something that I really want to do. So if you don't mind if I just like crash your party, and they're like, hey, the more the merrier. So Then I signed up for it. And once I signed up, I'm like, wait a second. Because I've done a lot of like really long races, 24-hour, 30-hour. My longest is 150 miles, which it's crazy. But this one, I'm like, it's just 7 marathons. I got this. But once I signed up, I'm like, wait a second. I'm going to have to fly to all these continents. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So all 7 continents. So there's another challenge here in addition to the 7 marathons. That's going to be the recovery between each one. When you have to hop on a plane and you go from Perth to Istanbul, then it's going to be a 20-hour flight. So we have to think about things like, how do we recover from the marathon?
Right.
When you're up in a plane, your body swells. So it's not easy. I don't know that it would be easy normally to do 7 back to back to back, but it adds another layer of difficulty with those flights.
Are these commercial airplanes? Are you going to be able to lay down?
Thank goodness they're not commercial airplanes. It's one airplane that hosts all 60 runners, and they're all it's like a business class setup. So you do get to lay down. And I'll probably be in the aisle, if I'm being honest, just sprawled out, getting all the rest that I can.
I was going to ask what the plan was for the commuting. Because that is a huge deal of this, because it's just back to back to back 7 straight days.
And if you had to do commercial, then you've got the risk of what happens if there's a flight delay, So they've got this dedicated airplane that you're on. It's got all your luggage. So there is that central point. And I think it's a good thing, too, for all the people that I get to do it with. You get to know one another as you're going through this.
For sure. There's definitely camaraderie. You guys are really going to get to know each other. I'm sure you know a lot of Wichitans already, but you're going to meet a bunch of different people that...
I bet that airplane's going to smell really good, too, after day 7.
Showering. I mean, all that has to be set up. The logistics of it. And have you studied the terrain of each of these marathons? You going uphill, downhill. Have you looked into all that? I mean, I'm sure you have.
I have, yeah. And thankfully, the terrain itself, they're all pretty flat courses. So there might be just a little hill here and there. That's not part of the challenge. It's going to be more road. So thankfully, it'll be quicker running in general. But when you do the back to back to back, you start to run a little bit slower.
Oh, yeah.
you have to keep some in the tank,
Right. I'm just looking at what Blake pulled up. He pulled up the Great World Race website, and seeing that guy running in Antarctica is crazy. I had no idea they had a marathon in Antarctica.
Right? It's wild. And the Antarctica Marathon is really what this whole thing revolves around, because flying into Antarctica, there's storms all the time. So this last year, they ended up having to start a day early. And in order to get them all in 7 days, then you just move everything up by 1 day. But that becomes a little tricky if you've got people that are coming with you to crew you, or they want to meet you. And like I've got people that want to come to Cartagena in South America. And it's like, well, you guys need to get refundable tickets just in case you need to move the date a day earlier or a day later. And it's all because of Antarctica. Is it going to be safe to fly in on the day that we're scheduled to start? And
Wow.
I don't know right now. We won't know until the day before.
Wow. It's that
My
unpredictable.
goodness.
Yeah. Yep.
That's amazing. What an amazing place. And it's amazing that, a prominent Wichita figure like yourself has so much time for nonprofits, because you and I met through Wish ICT here in Wichita, another great organization that raises money and awareness for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Totally.
How are you finding the time to do all this?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that one. But we've got so many great local nonprofits that I do like to find one thing every year, every couple of years to focus on and to give some attention to. And with the small platform that I have, with the platform that you guys have, it's also an opportunity to share with people that are making a difference.
Right.
For sure. Wichita does have a lot of great things going on as far as nonprofits. And you see it especially when you're in it.
Yeah, totally.
It's really good.
There's a lot of remarkable people, a lot of change makers, and I think we're doing a better job too of keeping young talent, and I think that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Yeah, Wichita's just continuing to expand. We were talking with Pete about this, Pete Meinster, and Wichita's it's growing. He said it's up to like 500,000 people.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's amazing.
But how great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about, just downtown, Douglas, where Pete was making a joke about how you don't even need Cowtown anymore, because Douglas could have been Cowtown 20 years ago for free, if we didn't put the investment into it. And now it's an awesome place in town.
And a credit to like our city leaders and the investors and business people that have come into downtown, because it's so integral to a city to
Right.
have a healthy downtown. And I think that's where you see a lot of cities that, they're moving in a different direction if there's not attention placed in the downtown. But we've seen over the last decade, downtown Wichita is like completely transformed for the better.
Right.
And the arena probably has a lot to do with it too.
And the stadium.
Totally. Yeah.
Getting baseball back. Like, Wichita's just slowly building, and it's great to see.
It is.
Yeah, I know. It's fascinating just being from here, just to see what it was then to what it is now.
Yeah. The only thing I miss is Joyland,
Right.
Someone needs to bring that back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I vaguely remember that.
I don't really remember it at all other than seeing videos and stuff.
Yeah, we're like at the youngest part of ever being there.
Did you get to go?
Yeah, but I was super young, and I have memories in my mind, but I'm not sure if I'm making them up or if they were real
Hey, maybe
memories.
it's both.
Maybe it is.
It had the world's oldest wooden roller coaster, and part of why it was terrifying is like, am I going to fly off of this thing?
Right.
And maybe you were. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is part of the fun.
Wasn't there a funny story about the clown? Didn't the clown get stolen or something, and then they found it in somebody's shed after they died, or something like that?
I think there's something to that.
There's a creepy clown in
Yeah.
the middle of this park that played an organ, and it did go missing. I didn't know it was found, though.
I could be wrong, but I think it was. But again, I could be wrong about
Wild.
that. Yeah, I
That
know.
is. Yeah, Wichita's got interesting history, man. Oh, Blake, did you find something on it?
That's some deep Wichita lore right there.
Yes, it is.
It likely refers to Louis the Clown, the animatronic clown that played the Wurlitzer organ at Joyland Amusement Park in Wichita, Kansas. Louis went missing for over a decade before being found in 2015 at the home of a former park employee, of course. The park itself has faced a series of unfortunate events, including a windstorm that damaged the roller coaster, its demolition, and multiple fires. Wow.
That's just dirty. Who would steal a clown? I mean, some people these days.
It was a famous clown.
Yeah. It's the same thing with like the Jackie Robinson statue that got stolen from League 42.
Yeah. That was terrible.
Awful.
But that's been replaced, right? Like
Yeah.
the community came together and now it's back up, which is
Yeah.
cool to see.
Yeah, I think it was actually profitable for League 42, according to Pete. We talked about that as well. He said that the donations throughout the country came in like crazy, and they made out all right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because that made national news.
It did, yeah.
Yep.
And way more important than the clown getting replaced.
Right. For sure.
When you heard about the Great World Race, what was the moment where you knew I'm going to do this? Because it's such a daunting feat.
It is. Well, every year I really like to pick a challenge, like something that just takes me completely out of my comfort zone. And I think a lot of people in any type of athletics are like that. Like, what's your goal for the year? So when it comes to running, I've had a few different ones. Like one year I wanted to do heat was my challenge. So I went and signed up for a 100-mile race through the desert in Arizona. One year it was altitude was the challenge. So I signed up for the Leadville 100, it's a 100-mile race through the mountains, all above 10,000 feet altitude, which is tricky when you're from Wichita and the running here is like, it is so flat everywhere you go. There is one little hill in Sedgwick County Park, so you can go train, but you look like a crazy person when you're doing like an hour run up and down this like 50-foot hill. But hey, you get your incline in that way.
Sure.
What's the toughest one you've done? It's the one that's left a lasting impact and you're like, thank God that's over.
You know, the Leadville definitely, they're neck and neck. Leadville's in that category because of the altitude. And I ended up getting altitude sickness midway through the race. I had to go up and over.
Man.
It's called Hope Pass. And I want to say it's like 13,000 feet of elevation. And, oh man, like I was not feeling good. And you're barely
Were
moving.
you just puking?
Puking. And like, you know, you're looking at your watch and like if you're in some of these races, if you're making good time, I mean, you might have like a 9-minute mile and it's like, oh, that's awesome. But at this point, I had like a 45-minute mile. And I'm like, oh my goodness. You just hit this slog where it's like, is this ever going to be over? You question your sanity. But it really helps to have a crew that's there to support you. And these are not like single person events. And that's kind of like a misconception. I don't do these things on my own. I have people that help me. So at Leadville, when I'm getting altitude sickness and climbing over this mountain, I have my sister-in-law there that's like, you're doing such a good job. Like, keep moving. I'm like, Haley, like, it is a 45-minute mile. Like, what are you talking about? This is terrible. But having
Basically crawling.
Yes, exactly. But having that encouragement, like, that's what keeps you moving. Sure. And that's what is nice. The other hard one was Spartathlon. So the 150 miles, it goes from Athens to Sparta. And I'll tell you, it's the best way that you can see a country is to run through it. So we run along like the coastline of Greece and you see things that you would never get to see otherwise. Like I got to see indicators of like the recession in Greece in 2008 because there's all these like beautiful mansions on the coast by the sea and they're not finished. They're just like shells of houses. But like, oh yeah, that's why. So you see all these things in Greece and you get to mile 100 and the things going through your head at that point are like, you're doubting your sanity. Like,
I'm sure there's mental demons.
Did I do this?
Because you're only 2/3 of the way is a good way, but you're still like, man, I'm only 2/3 of the way through this. I've got a whole nother 50 miles.
Yeah. Like 2 marathons left. I just finished a 100-miler and I've got 2 marathons left to go. It's the middle of the night. I've got a mountain that I have to climb over and I'm falling asleep. And it's like, here's a 40-foot ledge that I'm about to like fall off of, but I'm almost asleep. So it does get a little dangerous sometimes with things like that. That's the challenge there. And you have to save energy too. I mean, you've got 50 miles left to go. You can't completely kill yourself because you've got to have that endurance. You've got to keep going.
How long does a 150-mile race take?
Depends on who you are. But for me, it was 32 hours.
So you just have energy bars and whatnot that you're just eating throughout?
Anything that you can get, absolutely. And for that one, I mean, you rely on a lot of these courses will have aid stations that you'll go to, and they're all different based on like who's organizing the race, but it's like a buffet that you get to stop at. And in Greece, it was kind of interesting because I didn't recognize a lot of the food. Like, what is this?
What am I eating?
But it's like, oh, great. Like, let me try this for the first time on race day. Maybe this will be good. But
Yeah,
you just want to like get calories in. And if it's hot, then you're more likely to have stomach issues. It's harder to eat. It's easier to eat when it's cold. And that's a big part of things too. So if it's really warm, you might have to do. Have you ever had one of those like goo gels?
I've seen them, maybe had them. The one that distance runners all have that you see on like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
They're disgusting. I'm not endorsed by goo, so but they are awful. They're so bad.
You definitely won't be now.
You need it though, because you feel it, and like as soon as you have it, like 10 minutes later, you get like this like fresh burst of energy, and you're monitoring like all these things going on with your body over time. Like you don't have a whole lot to think about, so you're monitoring all of these things. Like, where's my water at? How much water have I had? Have I taken drinks of water in the last hour? Where's my salt at? Where's my food at? Like, what's my calorie count? All of those things. You have to pay attention so that you can be like as level as possible throughout this. But really, all of those things are cycling up and down, and it's not really like an exact science. It's more like, well, this is kind of working for me, or I feel this way, so I think I need to do this.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Where'd you go to high school?
Andover.
Were you cross country? Have you always been into this sort of extreme stuff?
Not until college. I started doing marathons in college, and then it's kind of like a gateway drug. You start hanging out with other runner friends, and they introduce you to really bad ideas. Like, hey, you should really like sign up for a 50K. I'm like, I'm good. Like 50K, that's way too long. But then you do it, and it's like, that was tough. And in the moment, again, you doubt your sanity, but a couple weeks later, you don't remember the bad part, and then you get pressured into something else again. So even like in this 150-mile race, people like we're talking on the course because it's what else do you do? But you're sharing stories, and people are trying to convince me to sign up for a 200-mile race. They're like, it's not that bad. You can do this. You could do 200 miles. So it's one of those mentalities.
Where does it end?
Yes,
right.
Exactly. More is more is more. But it's not a good thing forever and ever and ever. You do need an ending point. You need a finish line.
When you run these races, you're probably doing many different things, but are you listening to music? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you just, sometimes no headphones and you're talking to a buddy?
All of the above. And the longer the race, the more it varies on like how to keep yourself entertained. But if I'm doing like something for speed, like I just want to go out and completely kill it with speed. If it's a 5K, if it's a half or a marathon or whatever, usually music. Like that's what pumps me up. But for the longer races, I like things that like distract me and that I can get like, if I'm listening to like an audiobook, maybe I get into a story and I forget about what it is that's happening because I'm listening to the story. Or I'm talking to someone and I'm learning about their life and the races that they've done or what they do, that type of thing. And you get these endorphins as you run, and it's almost like you feel a little bit like punch drunk. So like you are more social. People in general are more social. And so you talk about everything under the sun.
Anything to keep your mind off of what's going on.
Exactly. Yep.
That's interesting because it seems like, at least people I've talked to, like when I ran the Prairie Fire and Troy and I run the River Run every year, it seems like everybody's different when they're like 2/3 into a long race. Where do they go mentally? Like, where do you typically go? Like, for me, when I was running the Prairie Fire, I'm like, man, you keep going. Like, you can't stop or either pass out or finish.
Mm-hmm.
You know? What works for you?
So the pain cave it's a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly in endurance sports, people are very familiar with the pain cave. And there's a bunch of different ways to cope with the pain cave. What do you do?
I've never heard that term, pain cave. I like that.
Yep.
It's very fitting though. And it's a dark place. It can be a dark place. And some of these races are like, how much pain can you physically put up with in order to accomplish something absolutely incredible or epic? So what do? I don't know. I mean, it's different based on what it is that's going on. You try to distract yourself, but again, back to more is more is not always true. Like, you don't want to get lost in the pain cave forever.
For sure.
It's not a fun place to be.
Right.
For sure. And I've noticed, I like to think about even through like a hard workout, I always think, man, you're going to be so much happier when it's done if you finish this the right way rather than stopping.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, you know, you're going to be really disappointed in yourself if you don't finish.
And that's another very mental part of some of these things, because situations do come up where the right decision is to stop. And for some people, and for myself included, that is the hardest thing if that becomes the right decision. Like, let's say that you are facing some type of, like, your body's telling you. Well, at one point I ran out of water and I could feel like both my kidneys in my back. And it's like, ooh, like, I've never felt my kidneys before. I know exactly what this is. I know it's because I don't have water. I'm in the middle of the desert. Like, I can't go just like slice into a cactus and magically get water. But there are situations where stopping is the right thing to do. And it becomes like, there's just this mentality where you have to be super tough to finish these things, and you've got to have grit. And that doesn't always go hand in hand with like logic and reason, where like when it becomes the right call to stop, I credit a lot of people when they get a DNF because they've pushed themselves to a place where they was past their limit, and they recognize that, and that's a good thing. There are people that don't stop, and you can get things like there's something called rhabdomyolysis, where like blood flow like stops to your kidneys, and it can kill you.
Wow.
So you have to, like, when you're out on these ultra runs, you learn about some of these risks, and it's really important to pay attention to them, because you don't want something that is going to alter the rest of your life because you didn't stop a marathon or you didn't stop a 100-mile race. Like, you know, the world moves on. Nobody's going to know or care about your DNF except you. But there's also an element of it where, like, you do want to finish, because if you don't, it's almost like unfinished business at that point. And then you want to go back at, like, I want to go back to this specific race because I kicked my ass the last time and I really want to finish. So it's very mental.
Have you seen any of that pop up, like with other people you're running with? Anything like bad accidents like that?
Yeah, I have. I actually was a crew chief for someone that got rhabdo, and like I put a lot of that on my own shoulders for not recognizing it, not like ensuring the safety of the athlete. But it's more common than you would think. And especially in the ultra world where you've got like these hard asses that are just going to go no matter what. I mean, there's people that will finish a race unless like a bone is sticking out of their body. And I think that's just too far. I think the line needs to be a little bit further back, where it's okay to call it quits sometimes. And sometimes that's the braver thing to do. That's the stronger thing to do.
And you're living to fight another day.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to be able to fight another day.
Yep. And that, I didn't think about that, but that's really important to have somebody watching you or a coach, because when you're doing something like that, you're in an altered state of mind. Like, you need somebody in a clear state of mind when you're that far in and you're putting that much toll on your body.
100%. You become a child. So your crew essentially is like your parent. And you need someone, just like you said, that is making good decisions, that is watching out for you. You've got like this punch drunk thing going on. And sometimes it even alters your mental state to where, like with 100-mile, 200-mile races, you might have athletes that start hallucinating. You've got athletes that, like, you lose, you're so focused on running that you lose some of your senses. So, like, if you have to cross a road, you're not going to be as attentive as you might otherwise be, looking left and right and making sure that, like, the coast is clear. So even in a marathon, you see that, like, there's volunteers that will stop traffic. That is critically important, because you've got people that are punch drunk, these children running through that are just kind of oblivious to these dangers.
Yeah.
I'm like that even on the river run.
Totally.
A 6-mile run.
Exactly.
I'm not paying attention to much. I actually stepped on some sort of stick, probably 2 miles in, and it didn't hurt, but it was like a big enough stick where I'm like, how did I not see that? But that's exactly what you're talking about there, is I was just, in the middle of it. And then the next 2 weeks, my foot was hurting, but it's just funny because when I ran it, I stepped on that and I didn't feel anything because I was in the midst of it. But after, I was like, God damn, that hurt. But I wasn't paying attention.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's just 6 miles.
And the risk is, I mean, it's not just 6 miles. It's incredible. 6 miles is awesome. That's great. But you see that, like, as soon as you get into it and you're pushing yourself past that limit, you do lose some of your senses and your awareness of what's going on. I lose, like, dexterity in my hands after a certain point. So, like, something like opening a bottle, this bottle of water, will become very difficult in a 100-mile race.
Wow.
So I need someone at an aid station that can help me fill, like, the jug of water that I carry so I can drink.
Wow.
Man, you don't think of that when you don't do those sorts of things.
Right.
Totally.
Right. That's super critical for people to know. Like, I wouldn't have never thought of that for far endurance. Like, the furthest we've ran is, the river run and the half, the Prairie Fire half. But yeah, it makes total sense. Is your training different compared to your regular marathon training to what you're taking on now?
It is, yeah. I enjoy it more with the ultra endurance, like the super long races. It's more of, like, volume. You're just getting the miles in, you're spending time on your feet. I'm doing a lot of, like, back-to-back long runs. Whereas if I was training for, let's say I want to qualify for Boston, I'm going to go out and I have to do a lot of speed work. And so it's a lot of, like, sprints and it's a lot of very, very fast running. And for me, it's not as fun as the slower, like, I'm just out here to have a good time.
Have you done any of those speed any marathons like Boston or Chicago or?
Yeah, both.
You have? Oh, cool.
Yep. I've done Boston 4 times.
Wow.
Whoa.
It's fun. It's just a very different vibe. And people, like, Boston is one of those things where it's a life goal for so many runners. And when you get there, it is so cool because everybody's like, oh my gosh, we finally made it. Like, there's so many people that qualify for Boston and then don't even get to register. So if you get to register, it's even more special. You get to run it. You feel like you're a part of history. It's cool. And
why do people that qualify, why aren't they able to register?
So so many people want to do it. So there's a capacity for the race, and they'll have qualifying times different based on gender and age. But if you meet the qualifying time, you can go register. Great. But there's more people that want to run the race than the race can accept. So different races handle it differently. Like New York used to be where it was based on like, it was kind of like a concert ticket sale, like first in line. So you want to like wait at like 11:59 and get on. And Boston has always been where it's based on your time itself. So if you are like 10 minutes under the qualifying time, okay, you're going to get to register. But if you're like 20 seconds under the qualifying time, like it just depends on how many people want to do it that year.
Man, what a stressful deal that is.
It is.
You put in all that work, and then you just kind of, it's up to fate almost.
It is up to fate, and you have no idea. So you qualify for Boston. You have no idea if you're going to get to run it, if you get to register.
I wonder what the percentage is of people that get to run it that to the ones that don't.
It depends year to year. They'll publish. And some years, like a couple years ago, everybody that registered, everybody that wanted to get into Boston got in. Awesome. Oh. Then the next year, it's like, well, there were too many people, so you had to be 3 minutes under. And this last year, I think it was 5 minutes under the qualifying time. So it just depends on the year, but the general trend is more people want to do these things, and it's getting harder and harder. But there's ways that people have figured out to get faster times. So they've got like downhill races. So things where it's a Boston qualifier, they'll bus you up to the top of a mountain, and then the whole course is just straight downhill. And it counts.
Wow.
You've also got like developments with like the shoe technology. So like Nike Alpha Fly Vaporflies, it's this new shoe technology where it's like the bouncy carbon plate in your shoe, and they're tilted forward just a little bit, but it propels you forward. So if you're going to go out and run like a 6-hour marathon, probably not going to do that much for you. But if you're running a 3-hour marathon, it might take you from 3 hours to 2 hours and 55 minutes. But 5 minutes, that's a lot of time. And it can be the difference between getting into a race like Boston and not getting in.
Do you notice a big difference in like technology, like the gear you have? Like, do you notice a big difference between brands of shoes? What shoes do you prefer?
I do, and it depends on what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
On what I prefer, but like for a lot of like my mountain trail runs, I like to run in ultras. Like my feet will swell, and these ultras are like, they're bigger shoe, like bigger toe boxes. So as my feet swell, they're comfortable. I like that. Some of them are like clunky and heavy. I don't like that as much. When I'm doing like really fast races, I like the bouncy shoes. And just, I don't know, maybe some of it's a placebo too. Sure. That you want to have like the cool gear. But like if you're in Boston, if you're on like, they'll group you based on when you start the race, based on time. And it's funny because everybody on, one year I got to ride like the first wave bus, and everybody was wearing the same shoes.
Wow. It's interesting. Like, I would have never thought that stuff matters as much as it probably does.
Yeah.
You know, I run in the same New Balances I've had for, I don't know, over a year. It's probably not the best thing in the world.
But if you like them and you're used to it, that's great. That's perfect.
True. But we don't even know what we're doing.
No.
We don't, we're so noobs to this thing that, because I've run in the same pair of tennis shoes I've had for probably 5 or 6 years. But, I just don't know a difference. So a different pair of shoes probably would help, but screw it.
Yeah. I think most people, myself included, don't really know what we're doing. And it's kind of like the bro code where you kind of figure it out as you go along. And it's one of the conversations that you have if you do one of these super long runs on like, hey, like what works well for you? Like, how do you do this? You figure out little tricks. Like with these ultra races, it's a lot less about gear. I find that people are a little more like free-spirited because like if I went and I ran a 100-mile race and I told you it took me 40 hours, or if I told you it took me 18 hours, you're probably going to be like, great, awesome, you did that. Like you don't know if that's a good time or not, but if I told you a 5K time, like more people are going to know exactly what that means. Mm-hmm. So people are just a little more relaxed in the ultra scene. They care a little bit less about gear and that sort of thing. They're more chatty on the course because they're not trying to get a 3-hour time. They don't care if it's 26 hours or 26 hours and 30 minutes because they had to stop and help someone.
Gotcha. That makes sense. It's more of just about finishing.
It is, exactly.
Do you, on these ultra marathons, are you changing clothes throughout them?
I am. And it's another thing that, like, it just depends on what's going on. So, like, there have been ultras where it's pouring down rain the entire time, or I'm having to run through a muddy river and I get, like, sand and rocks in my shoes. And I've got to change my shoes or I'm going to be running on this stuff and it will like grind at your feet. It'll cause blisters. Like, you don't want that. So what I do with every race, and it's kind of a pain, but you plan. So I'll have a change of shoes. I'll have a change of clothes, and every single aid station that I can have a drop bag just in the event that I need it. Because I don't know if I'm going to need it or not. If I don't have to change, like, I'm tired at that point. It's tough to like bend over and untie a shoe. So like if I can avoid it, great. Or maybe I've had a race where like my feet, I was running in rain for so long, my feet swelled up and I felt like it's like Cinderella's stepsister trying to get into that shoe. I'm like, if I take my foot out of this shoe, I am not going to get it back in. So I cannot take these off until I finish the race.
Wow.
So you're strategically planning these stations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like if you see you have to run through a river or something, you're like, all right, I probably should have some sort of station shortly after.
You got to have the shoes after the river. You got to have new socks. I'm going to have like dude wipes so I can like clean my foot off if I need it. But if it's a good day and the water was clear and I didn't get any like silt in my shoe, I'm not going to change. Great. I'm just going to keep going. These aid stations are also like a trap because you look forward to it. It might be 3 hours of running before you get to one. And then it's like this big buffet of food. You get to stop running.
Yeah, you got to be disciplined.
Yeah, totally. They're playing music. Like, people are having a good time. If you've got your friends there that are crewing you, like, you want to spend time with them. But you're going to have a better race time if you're in and out. But you don't want to get in and out. It's tempting to be like, I'm just going to, like, kick it for, like, 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But if you kick it for 15 minutes, like, 10 different times, that's a lot of time.
That's tricky. I bet your body tightens up, too, if you hang around for too long.
It does, yeah.
You don't want to get out of that rhythm.
And that's where, like, a lot of people will ask, like, okay, you run 150 miles. Do you sleep in between? Your body tightens up if you stop. So something like sleep, I don't really want to sleep if I can avoid it. I've never slept during one of these endurance things, but I've seen people take a nap on, like, the side of a trail. They just curl up into a ball and take a little 15-minute nap. I don't think that would help for me, though.
I don't think it'd help for me either. I don't know, though.
What's your recovery like? What's your body feel like the day of and the day after? And what is your recovery like after finishing one of these 100, 150 mile races?
It's surprisingly quick. So, like, after 100 mile, 150, like, I feel pretty good, like, a week later. Like, I'm back at it. But what I've noticed for myself is I'm back at it to, like, 70 or 80%. And then it takes, like, 3 or 4 months to get back to 100%. Like, you get back to where, like, you can move, but something like motivation itself is a limited cup. And you've completely drained your motivation. So, like, I really like working out, and I like my schedule and doing it, like, as many days in a week that I can. But after a 100-mile race, there might be, like, 3 weeks that I'm like, oh, I don't want to work out at all.
That next day, like, when you wake up that next morning, are you even able to go up a flight of stairs? Like, what does it feel like to get out of bed? If you could even get out of bed.
Oh, it can be really tough, especially for some of the mountain races where you've just like completely wrecked your body. It's really tough. And walking downstairs, whew, it's not pretty.
God.
But what's funny for me is really it's shorter races that give me a harder time recovering. So like if I went and tried to do a fast marathon, that's really going to wreck my body. And it's not going to be universally true for everybody, but for myself, like I'm pushing myself to the point where like I'm just on that like cusp of I might injure myself. I'm going absolutely as hard as I can. And those recoveries are hard.
Oh, I'm sure. It's probably the intensity level of it. Just of 26 miles for you. Your intensity level is probably higher the entire time, which is probably what makes it a little more difficult.
You know, the scariest race for me is a 5K. Like, I'm terrified of them.
Really?
Yeah.
So just because you know you're going to go really hard the entire time?
I'm going to push myself, and I feel like to the point where, like, I know, like, what my mile time is. I know how fast I can run, and I want to beat it. And so, like, that's where I'm like, ooh, am I going to injure myself if I go that fast? So I don't like, I did one 1 mile race and I'm like, oh, never again. I won't do it.
You probably look like a deer just flying on a 1 mile race.
And I don't even know how to pace myself on that either, too. So like I went out and I was winning the race for like 75% of the race. Like it was a track, so 4 laps. And then the last lap, I'm like, I went out too fast. This is not sustainable.
Man.
Do you run the river run?
I've not, and it's been 20 years.
That's fun.
I'd love to.
There was a big
You
crowd
should.
at this one.
It's a great race.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It was fun. They got music and a bunch of people on the sides, water stations and all that stuff. It was really fun.
Will you guys run it together?
Yeah.
We start together, but then we'll separate a little bit.
Yeah.
He typically pulls away.
Right on.
Not that much. We had I don't know if you saw this one. We had Jim Gifford was his name. 70 years old, ran, and I don't know what the time equates to. You might remember it. 45 minutes he ran the 10K river run.
That's
70.
Awesome. It was like a 7:28 minute pace or something.
That's good.
He's gearing up for Chicago this fall.
Okay, cool.
And we were just checking our times after we finished the river run. Troy was like, Jack, you got 58 or whatever I got. And I was like, great. Troy's like, I got 54. I'm like, nice, man. And then he kept scrolling and he saw a guy in the 70 to 74 age group that kicked our ass.
That's so impressive. That's so cool.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And I bet he won in his age group category, no doubt.
Yep.
That's really cool.
And he was joking around. He's like, yeah, I'm happy I turned 70 because 69 is in a different age group than 70.
Exactly.
So he graduated a different age group and now he's killing everybody.
Yes, it's the silver lining for runners.
Right.
I get that
right.
with law too. Like, as you get a little older, like people trust you a little more with a little bit of gray hair than when you're younger. So there's definitely some perks.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. So you're sitting, about 4 or 5 months out? Starts in November.
Yep.
What does, from today to when you're boarding the plane to Antarctica, what's the training look like? You probably incline and then decline down?
That's exactly. Yeah. So it's a bunch of, like, I'm slowly adding volume, but then you back off a little bit. You add a little more, you back off a little bit. And I've got a coach, which it's good for me for like the accountability. So every day I like go in and log my workout, and she knows if I don't do a run, so that doesn't happen because I don't want to tell her I didn't do the run.
Sure.
But it's gradual volume building from now until November, and then it'll probably be a couple weeks out. There will be a taper period where you just slow down, and it's actually kind of miserable because you've been used to all of this volume, and you get used to like the endorphins and everything, and then you don't do anything, and Like, I become kind of a miserable person to be around during the taper period. It's like if you have a dog that like doesn't get exercise, that needs exercise, it's like that type of thing.
Gotcha. Have you met anybody that's completed this?
Yeah.
Have you? What have they told you?
So a friend completed it last year, and she was an Olympian and incredible athlete, and it was her first foray into like the ultra endurance world, and she did incredible. But along the way, when she got to race 6 in Cartagena, South America, she ends up getting the flu or norovirus, and just everybody being in such close proximity the whole week. So her last 2 races were just kind of a sufferfest.
Oh my
getting through
goodness.
it. But everybody that I've talked to, it's just one of those like life-changing experiences. Everybody's loved it.
What a fascinating thing to think about for her, like where she went in her mind to finish those last 2 races being sick, and after running five marathons before that, you get sick and you have 2 more.
Can you imagine?
Oh my god.
No,
Yeah.
I could not.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it takes like digging deep.
That's a really unique type of athlete to dig through that.
It is. It takes some grit.
Oh my.
Think of how you feel, just how much of a wuss I am when I'm just sick. And I can just lay in bed all day and I'm still miserable.
Right. But instead, add to that all the travel. Like, you've been on, let's say at that point, 40 hours of flying. You've already done 5 marathons back to back to back to back to back. And then you're sick. So she was saying that she knew she needed to eat, and she knew she wasn't going to keep it down, but she tried to keep it down as much as possible. And like, you've got to have the calories in order to perform. So that was her strategy. Just eat as much as she could.
That's an extraordinary level of drive
It is.
to be able to pull something like that off. Just a race in general, and then getting sick. That's extraordinary. Almost boggles the mind.
It does. There's another thing that's kind of weird that happens after these things, and that is you become kind of dull. Like, I feel like my IQ drops, like, it's already probably pretty low, but it drops like another 20 points for like a couple weeks after. Like, my brain power, I'm not as creative. I'm slower coming up with responses. Like, just like, what is going on? So there are people that will get out there and maybe get used to it if you're doing these things all the time. But for me, it's just too much of an interruption to do more than like one major thing a year. It's a big sacrifice too for people that are around you. I mean, let me tell you what the worst spectator sport is in the world. It's an ultra run. Because if you are going to crew someone and you're watching your runner, and let's say it's a 30-hour race, you might get to see them 5 times. And you get to see them, they come in, they smell terrible, and they're like dead tired. Sometimes they lose control of like bodily functions, and like, it's high stress because they're in for a limited amount of time. You've got a job to do, like we were talking about before, where you're like, you really have to be their parent and make sure that they're safe. You're taking care of them, and you're trying to get them out as fast as possible. So it's high stress waiting for them to come in. It's high stress when they're in, and then they're right back out onto the course.
You're almost a pit crew, almost like NASCAR.
It is.
They come in, you give them all everything, and then they just send them on their way.
It is harder to crew these things than it is to run them.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the stress level has got to be through the charts for those people that are coaching or, being a support group, because they're just very worried about you. Because that's a wild thing to do, that you can get really hurt, really hurt.
You can. And you don't get like the endorphins that you get as the athlete. You don't get the attention or like the bragging rights of like, hey, I did 100 miles. Like, wow, that's awesome. Sure. But no, they go and they stay up for, if it's a 30-hour race, they stay up for 30 hours helping you. I mean, those, like, those are your people. at the point where they show up for you and do something like that. So like those are some of my best friends, or people that have crewed me before.
Sure.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. That's something that I just wouldn't have thought of.
No.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to do a 100-mile race.
I don't know.
I think I'll stick to the river run.
Yeah.
Come on.
And the river run, maybe the prairie fire. I don't know, man. That's really incredible what you're doing. How can people follow along? That aren't there? Is there a link? They probably don't. It's pretty hard to broadcast.
So I'll be actually on the plane. We've got Wi-Fi, which is awesome. Thank goodness. I don't know how I would survive a 20-hour flight without Wi-Fi, and knock on wood that it is working at that time. But athletes last year were able to post throughout the entire race. So I'll be posting on my Instagram, on Facebook, that sort of thing for people to follow along.
Cool. That'll be fun to follow.
What's the day of it? I know it's in November, but what's the actual day?
Starts November 15th. So it'll be the 15th through the 22nd if all goes according to plan.
Right.
Man, I can't wait to see it. You said
Yeah, we'll definitely be following along.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You said you're running with 2 other Wichitans?
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
Jake Dunn, Tony Brown.
Cool.
2 badasses.
Well, you gotta be.
Sounds like it.
You gotta be to pull something like that off.
Yep.
Remarkable. I wanted to ask you. You brought up law. Ever since you stepped into law, has anything stuck out to you? What have you learned as you continue in your lawyer career?
I love it. It's fun. I picked the right field of law to be in. And I can say that at this stage of my career because like I look at other people that and like shout out to them for people that have dedicated their life to serving other people. But if you're a criminal defense attorney, at the end of the day, if you have a bad day, your client's going to jail for life. My goodness, that's heavy.
Right.
Or if you're like a family law attorney, like there are rarely like great outcomes where like you have to split half of your estate, and let's say you didn't get custody of your kids. That's tough. Those are tough phone calls to make. Me, I'm like, hey, here's a check. Like, it's awesome. So it's not awesome at the point where like we have to come in and help when people have experienced very real trauma. But I mean, we go through it all the time. So like we know what the steps are. So it's very rewarding to come in at a point where someone is in complete crisis mode, and then slowly they get their life back on track. And at the end, the closing point is giving someone money and giving someone a check. So it's awesome.
Did you always want to be a lawyer?
No.
Really?
So my dad was an attorney, and for me, I'm like, success is like blazing my own path. I am not going to be an attorney. So I went to business school and was looking at like, what business do I do? I don't know. So like looking at like different franchises, thinking about like trying to find investors, that sort of thing. And then my dad pitched me on like, hey, why don't you try to come back and grow the law firm? I'm like, maybe, I don't know. But I think if I do that, like to own a law firm in Kansas, in most states, you have to be an attorney. So I'm like, okay, well, I'd need to go to law school. And there was a program at Washburn, accelerated 2-year program. And he had just opened up a satellite office in Topeka. I'm like, okay, maybe I can help grow this satellite thing in Topeka, go to law school for a couple of years and see like if this is right. And like just stepping into law school at Washburn, like that's what I grew up talking about at the dinner table. That was my language. I loved it. It was just like I was in denial for a long time. I'm like, well, it's not successful if I follow in my dad's footsteps. Like, I don't know who told me that. Like, why did I buy into that? I don't know.
Sure. It's interesting how the human mind, you can trick yourself into things like that.
Totally. For almost like half of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can trick yourself into negative thoughts. I feel like I've noticed that, when you take on more and more responsibilities, like you get a mortgage and things like that, it feels like you can kind of trick your mind into thinking you're worse off than you actually are.
Totally. Yeah. And there's so much power in like just your thinking itself and how you are framing things, the vision that you have, the direction that you're moving in. I mean, whether we're talking about running or law or life in general, all of those things are so important. Mm-hmm. And the self-talk. And I mean, we all have that monkey mind where, like, in a race or in business or whatever it is that we're doing, like, we are our own worst critics. And how do you identify that voice? How do you name it and set it aside so that you can move in the right direction? And if I knew, I would tell you. But it's one of those things that we have to constantly work on, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. And it's probably different for everybody too. So
totally, we've all got different battles.
Yeah, there's no exact science to it, I don't think.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. And we just recently started this. What have you learned through social media? I see you're active on social media. What have you learned? Good things, bad things?
So I think my biggest thing is like read the room. And we do a lot of advertising, a lot of commercials, and commercials fit. They've got a time and a place. It works on TV. Commercials, like I can't take the commercial that we put on TV and put it on TikTok, or it's going to be terrible. It's like tone deaf. Nobody wants to watch a commercial on TikTok. People want more authenticity on social media. It doesn't have to be super well polished to get content out there. And I think a lot of times we hold ourselves back because it's like we need everything perfect before we do this, and this. And you don't. If you've got a phone, you can get out there and start putting content out. But ultimately, is it adding value? Is it consistent with what people are wanting to see, what they're looking for? What do you want to see? What's missing for you, or what would you enjoy? And if you can find that thing, then do it.
I think you're exactly right about people wanting it to be perfect. Like, I think it's like with us, for example, like I think waiting on everything to be perfect is a form of procrastination. Like the best thing is just start whatever you're doing, like we're recording, we have 2 cell phones, like just start.
100%.
And
nobody that is doing it or that's in the game is going to judge you and be like, what are you doing? Like, that's awful. No, the people that are haters are the ones that are just keyboard warriors that aren't doing it themselves. The voyeurs, the trolls that come on. And, the more successful that you guys get, you'll get the hate too. It comes with the territory.
Yeah, I remember one of our first videos or something that got posted. We got roasted in the comments by like 1 or 2 people. It was hilarious.
They were hilarious.
We're getting somewhere. If people are hating, we're getting somewhere.
Exactly.
Right. And when you start from a human perspective, you're all you start at the same place where you really don't know what you're doing. And you got to remember that. Like we have to remember that. It's like everyone that's done this. Like you always joke around about looking at like Joe Rogan's first podcast, or you go find these guys that are established. They're terrible. We're all starting in the same spot. It's just, are you willing to continue?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Being bad at something is a prerequisite to getting good. You have to be bad at it first. It's amazing. It's funny. Like that first comment was like, they need to make podcast equipment more expensive. It's like, damn, that's a good burn. That's a good burn. I'll give you that one.
We've had a couple for sure.
You need to put that on a t-shirt.
I know.
I like that.
Yeah.
We were all laughing at that.
Damn, it's tough out here.
Yeah, it sucks when it's you get burned so good that it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
For whatever reason, like I've not had too much hate. Again, knock on wood. And I got a new car a couple weeks ago, and I have a friend that has a car YouTube channel, and he borrowed it, and I've never been roasted like I was in this video. So I think there's also something with like the following that you build. So people that enjoy watching your content, like you're not going to have as much haters with your audience as you might have if you step into something where like people don't really know you.
Right. Well, this was all on like TikTok. So, just random people see it and, comment.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't like under a YouTube channel or something like that.
But sometimes the hate with TikTok, the algorithm likes the comment. So go ahead, hate away.
That's what we thought. Yeah, that's what we were telling each other.
That's
so
what
we could sleep that night. We're like, oh, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe that'll help us in the long run.
Yeah.
Just leave a roast in the comment below.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just so easy, and so many people have so much time on their hands to just fire off a snarky comment, makes them feel good for like 2 seconds, and they go back to whatever makes them miserable.
Yeah, exactly. But to the haters out there, like, at least make it funny.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, like they need to make podcast equipment more expensive. That's pretty funny.
That's
That
good.
is.
That's good.
I'll take that burn.
Exactly. Credit to them. Yes. It's a masterclass right there in trolling.
Yeah. No doubt.
Too good, man. Too good. I wanted to ask you, since you're taking on such a I think extraordinary is a good word for it, what you're about to do. What advice would you give somebody that has a big, more of a wild goal that a lot of people think is crazy? What advice would you give to them?
Well, first of all, to that person, love it already. Like, go out there and set that big goal. Like, do something that scares you. And if you don't hit it, like, what's the worst that can happen? You tried. I mean, the worst that can happen really is that you never set the goal to begin with.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I've thought of, kind of with this as well. Like, the fact that if you jump in and do it, the only positive is going to come from it. Because if it doesn't work, then great. When I'm 90 years old, you won't have that regret. You tried. The worst thought I have is being old and thinking, man, what if I would have done this or would have tried this? Things I'm really interested in and I didn't try. And if you jump in and it works out, it's like, great, this is for you. And, it can really improve your life.
Totally. That's where running has been, for me, really cool, because I see this on like a smaller scale. And when it's a race, like, if I don't finish, who cares? Whatever. It's embarrassing. Maybe it's like a stain on my running resume. Whatever. It's a little more difficult if it's like something that you're doing really long term, or like a new business idea or a career change or anything like that. So sometimes it helps having something that is a little more lighthearted with a big goal to learn those lessons. More of a safe space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I take comfort in 200 years from now, nobody's going to remember our names, regardless of what we do, unless we're Rockefeller or somebody like that.
Jack, you're speaking for yourself. I don't know about that. That's one thing I would disagree on, but okay. We can agree to disagree.
I don't know. Life's short, man. It's short.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And it's critical, I think, for mentally and just in life to go for things that you're interested in.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose? Nothing.
Right. You get one life, and I mean, don't be living it for other people. Don't be living it to please the trolls. Do what it is that you want to do. What is important to you. And when you find that, I think you connect more. You're more authentic, and you're more likely to succeed and get it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. Was that the video of us getting roasted, Blake?
Yeah.
Pull that back up. Yeah, Zach Phillips, whoever you are. Tough watch, gentlemen.
Oh, brutal.
That bottom one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They let anyone buy podcast equipment.
Yeah.
I guarantee
That's a good one.
Those are not creators. Those are watchers. You know it.
Yeah, we commented back on that one. Thank you for the flaming, man.
Brutal.
Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. So you don't get any of that.
Oh, I definitely get it. Thankfully, I've got a team of people that they'll moderate a little bit, so I don't see a ton of it. But we're in the Midwest, and people generally are pretty nice. I've had some billboards that have been graffitied in not the most friendly ways.
I was about to ask you about that. I've been seeing that. Some assholes are getting up there and
so
spray painting shit.
we just leaned into it, and we did our own, and we put out a graffiti billboard. Like, let's just do it.
That's the best way to do it.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, that is good. You just lean into it.
Yeah, why not? It's entertaining.
Right.
Yeah. The hate thing is just, I don't know. It's such a wild thing that
Just
people
part of the game.
People just waste their time. People have so much time on their hands. Like, go outside, go do something.
Yeah.
Find a hobby.
But the more haters you get, I mean, the more people you're connecting with, and there's way more people that are not in that little small category of hater or troll. So just ignore them. But it's a sign of success as that small portion grows. This is growing as well.
Right.
You're exactly right. It'll be interesting to just kind of see it progress, and it'll be great to. I'm sure you'll be posting as the months go on.
Yeah,
It'll be great to see kind of where you're at in this phase, and then obviously when the race begins, it's going to be great to follow you.
That's a big part of this too. Yeah, it's fun to be able to post content about this because it's what I enjoy doing. It's authentic to me.
And in this, you just meet people. You meet people you would have never met if you decided not to do it.
Exactly.
So even with us, it's like, I've never met you. And everybody but 2 of our guests so far, we met through this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're going to have
It's
this
amazing.
huge network. And you guys are already killing it. The podcasts are great. The videos are great.
Oh, thank you.
It's just going to continue getting traction. So keep at it. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, we're trying.
Thank you. Yeah,
We're trying.
It keeps us busy, but man, each time I sit down, time just flies by. It's like, man, that was a blast.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely keep it up.
Well, you're good interviewers. That helps.
What do you have for us?
What's next? Who would be your dream guest? I feel like that's a JoJo Siwa question. Who's the dream guest on your podcast?
Like dream guest or dream possible?
Let's start with possible. Like maybe a dream guest with someone that lives in Kansas. And then I want to hear that big goal.
Somebody that I don't think there's a 0% chance. It's not much higher than 0. But getting Greg Marshall would be pretty crazy. Like sitting down and talking to him, just because we've had WSU season tickets for our entire lives. And being able to sit down with him and just kind of relive, the great moments, how many great teams he had. It would be great to talk with him and just because he deserves his flowers for what he did for the city. And I don't think he gets that as much as he should. I don't want to say put Wichita on the map, but kind of did.
There was an era, like the Greg Marshall era at Wichita State games, where every single game was sold out. I mean, it brought so much attention to the basketball program. I totally agree. I think, there were some things that went down and canceled for a period of time, but, I think that's another thing with, like, people in the Midwest is, if you own your stuff, like, we're people that have grace and we forgive, and I think we would welcome him back if that's something that he wanted to do. But if I were him, I might be enjoying life as is. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
And another one in the similar line would be like Ron Baker, because I think he's in Wichita as well. I think he stayed here, and he would be awesome to have on too. That's like, these are
would
less than 1%, but man, you want to dream pretty big, not like Joe Rogan big, but like, but they're in town. Probably would never happen, but you think about it, like those two would be really cool down the line.
They would, and I think time heals everything. Like with the Marshall thing, time's passed. He deserves the recognition that he brought in so much for the city. Like, come on.
You know where time could heal everything? Right here.
Right.
It could be his welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Should make it happen.
Come on, coach.
I like it.
Yeah, it would be great. As far as like outside of the city, I don't know.
I haven't even thought about that.
I haven't either.
Many people. You name it. Really?
Have you tried to like, who do you look up to in terms of like format? Because you guys, I mean, you've started this and it's got a good flow.
Like podcasting?
Yeah. Have you studied?
Yeah. There's a. Do you know who Chris Williamson is? He runs a podcast called Modern Wisdom. He's got a great podcast. It's very insightful. He brings on great guests, like really meaningful conversation, and really trying to, learn about what our guests are doing. That's what he does, and that's kind of what I try to do as well. He would be an awesome guy. His podcasts are on YouTube and Spot. I'm sure they're everywhere, but he's got a great podcast. It's just meaningful conversation and things that anybody who listens can benefit from.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I like that.
Yeah,
he is great.
He is. He's great. I think he was from the UK and moved to Austin, and he's been here since. And he runs an awesome podcast. Like he had McConaughey. His conversation with McConaughey was fantastic, and he's had like all the big guests that typically kind of make the rounds, and he's great. He's great. Who do you listen to?
A lot of people. I was just thinking, and Dan Martell specifically, he puts out there, he's a business guy, guru, and puts out there that like, it's kind of selfish of people if you've got something to say and you've got value to put out there and you're keeping it to yourself. It's selfish.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And look at what you guys are doing. So that's awesome.
And the internet's such a big place. Like, you never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll see how it goes. It's fun, man. We're really enjoying it.
It is fun. It just adds a different spice.
Totally. So what frequency are you going at now? How many a week or a month?
Well, it seems like
I don't even know if we've been I wonder when that first one. I don't know if we've been doing it a month. Have we been doing it a month?
probably. Our first guest was probably within the month, though. Like our first 2 or 3, I think were just you and me, and then Blake behind the scenes. But yeah, we're about a month in with the guests. And these last couple weeks, we've had 1 or 2 a week, which has been really great, and we've been really fortunate. A lot of people, especially in the early days, anybody who comes on, like thank you so much.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
taking time out of your day.
Yeah.
We've had every guest we've had has been great. And I know they're all taking an hour or a little over out of their day to come and sit down with us.
Yeah, but guys normally have to pay to do these things. So, hey, thanks. Appreciate you. You need to do. Have you seen NPR does like this Tiny Desk content series? So with the bookshelves, I think you need to do something where guests, each one can bring something for the bookshelf.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. If you've got things in the bag, we'll definitely hang some things up.
There's a Patterson Legal Group hat that you can put like right up
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
That'll sit right here.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. We've been talking about just kind of compiling things as we go. We're kind of stuck with the books that we have.
It's great though.
Yeah.
Just shows you where we started.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at these bookshelves.
Just watch out for people that are trying to do shameless plugs for themselves.
Yeah, well, at this stage of the game, the shameless plug's not going to get you very far.
Oh, whatever.
No, that's it. You got anything, Troy?
I don't. We covered it.
Tyler, you got anything for us?
No, thank you guys.
Well, sir,
Thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate you.
You're taking on a really remarkable feat, and it's exciting to watch you do it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results.
Thank you.
We will be following along.
I hope I get to that finish line at Miami. That's the goal.
Awesome. Miami's
I think
last
you
one.
will.
Miami's the last one. Yeah.
You will.
Party in Miami.
Yeah,
Welcome
I
to
know.
join.
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Tyler. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thanks.
Yes.